Hey guys, welcome back to another video by Simplilearn. In today's video, we're going to learn all about JavaScript functions. In our previous videos, we've covered topics like JavaScript arrays and loops. If you're new to this topic, I suggest you go through these topics before. Alright, so before jumping in, let's go ahead and look at what's in store for us. First, we're going to learn what exactly JavaScript functions are. Then we'll look at JavaScript function expressions, then the function constructor, self-invoking functions, functions as values, functions as objects, arrow functions, generator function, and the predefined functions. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Moving on to our first topic, what are JavaScript functions? So basically, a function is a group of reusable code which can be called from anywhere in your program, right? When you have a piece of code that you want to execute repeatedly in your entire program, it makes more sense to define it once and call it over and over, right? It makes the code more efficient and readable. This also helps programmers write modular codes. So this is the syntax. You make use of the function keyword, followed by which you mention the name of the function. The name of the function is completely your choice. Next, you mention the parameter list. And within curly braces, you can define the function. Now, the function body is basically the code that is executed every time the function is called. So let's go to our VS Code editor. And here I've created a folder called demo functions, within which I've created an HTML file called functions.html. Alright, and now I've just typed in the initial code. Now let's create a function. So let me say script, within which I use the keyword that is function keyword. And now I give the name for my function. I say my underscore function. And the function takes a parameter, say value. Now this function basically returns the square of the digit, alright? So within which I say document.getElementById. The ID is demo. And now it just displays value into value. Alright, so the function basically displays the square of the number. Now outside the function, let me call the function as my function and let me pass the value 5. Alright, now let's save this and execute it. So let me go back to my file. And here we go. It displays the value 25. So this was a simple function which took a value, a digit as a parameter, and then returned the square. Moving on to the next concept, function expression. Now what we learned previously was function declaration. But a function can also be defined as an expression. Now this is what the syntax looks like. Now here the function is created and assigned to the variable explicitly like any other value. The meaning remains the same. That is, you create the function and store the value that it returns into a variable, and in our case it's x, right? So let's go to our VS Code and let me help you understand this better. So now I create another function and here I say let x equals, let's use a simpler function. So I just mention function and within curly braces, I display an alert message and I display a message saying hello. Alright. Now, after that, to display the message, what we can do is let me just copy this output code and paste it here. And here what we're going to be displaying is the value x, right? Now since it consists of a function, you'll have to type the curly braces. Now this is crucial for its execution. Alright, so let me save this and then execute. Let me execute this. And here you go. It says the site says hello. So we've successfully executed the piece of code. We can also assign this variable x to another variable and then call that variable instead, right? We can say let y equals x And instead of calling x here, we can simply call y. Let me save it and then let me refresh the page. And there we go. It still displays the message hello. Alright, so this is one of the ways of defining a function that is as an expression. Moving on to our next concept, function constructor. Now JavaScript functions are defined using the keyword function, right? Now functions can also be defined using a JavaScript built-in function. Now this is the basic syntax. So here we've created a function called myFunction and we've used the keyword new. After which we've used the constructor function and inside we provide the parameter list. After that, the return value. Next you can call the function here, right? So let me just go back to my VS Code. And now let me just make changes to the same piece of code here. I create a function, say my_function. Okay. Alright, let me just change the name to myFunction. Alright. And then here I use the keyword new and the function constructor, that is function, within which I'm passing all the parameters. So I have A, B, and I'm going to return the sum of the digits. Alright. And now while calling the function, let me just store the value in a variable, say x. And let's call the function, that is myFunction, with the parameters 2 and 3. Alright. And now let me display it. So I'm just going to copy this. And I want to display the value of x, right? Alright, so let me save this and execute it. If you refresh the page, it displays the sum, that is 5. To make it more readable, let me just display another message here. Let me just say the sum is x. Alright. Let me save it and then refresh the page. It says the sum is 5. Alright, now this is how you make use of the function constructor. Next up, we learn about self-invoking functions. Now, as the name suggests, these functions are invoked automatically without being called. Now, previously when we learned about function expressions, we saw that parentheses were crucial. So you have to add parentheses around the function to indicate that it is a function expression. So here is a syntax for you. So what we've done is we've made sure we've enclosed the entire function within parentheses. So let me help you with that. Let's go back to our VS Code and let me create another script. And here, let me create the function within the parentheses and say function. It's not taking any parameters. Instead, it is going to alert a message. So let me say hello, welcome. Alright. After which, we're going to call the function. So again, we have to mention the parentheses. Let's save this and execute. So when we refresh the page, it says hello, welcome. So we never called the function, rather it got invoked by itself. So these are self-invoking functions. Now let's go ahead and look at functions as values. Now in JavaScript, a function is basically a value. So we can deal with it as a value. Now here is a simple syntax. Now if you closely look at the syntax, you might think that this is same as function expressions. Well, no. In this case, what we do is we first define the function and then we assign it to a particular variable. But in the case of expressions, the function definition was defined during the initialization of the variable, right? And also we had to specify the parentheses in order to call the function. So to help you understand this better, let me go back to our VS Code. And here, let me just erase this. And let's define a function that returns the product of two digits. So let me just call it product. which takes two parameters, let me say A and B, within which we return the value A into B. Alright, now after this, let's create another variable, say y equals function, the name of the function is product. So product of 2 and 5. Alright, so this basically returns us 10. Right, so let me just copy this to display this on our web page. And here I change the message to the product. And here let me change it to y. So let's save this and execute it. So let me refresh the page and here you go. You can see the message, the product is 10. Now what we can do is we can make alterations to this. Now say I want to multiply the value with 5 again. Right, so basically this returns 10 and that value is multiplied by 5. So let me save this and refresh our page and there we go. It returns and there we go. It displays 50. So this is how you can make use of functions as values. Moving on to the next topic, functions as objects. Now JavaScript functions are a special type of objects called function objects. Now a function includes a string which holds the actual code, that is the function body of the function. The code is literally just a string. Although not recommended, you can also create a function with the help of the function constructor. I will show that to you a little later on. But for now, let's look at the syntax. Now here we have a variable called body, which basically consists of the function body. It's enclosed in double quotes and that's a mistake, please ignore it. Alright, so next we have variable function name. So here we create a function using the keyword new and then we pass a parameter list and the body basically tells us what the function returns. Alright, next we have an alert message to call the function. So let me just show how this is executed. Back in our VS Code, let me create another function and let's say the function returns the area of a circle, right? So let me just create a body variable which returns, so the area of a circle is pi r square, so we make use of math.pi into radius, right? So it's basically pi r square. After which, let's say where circle, and here let's create a function using the new keyword function, and then here we pass the value, that is the radius, and then the body, right? So basically this is the definition of our function. So let's use alert to display the area. So we say alert of circle of 5. Alright, so let me save this and execute it. So when you refresh the page, it displays the area of the circle. So this is how you can use functions as objects. Moving on to our next concept, arrow functions. Now functions can be written more compactly and more precisely with the help of arrow functions. Alright, now arrow function expressions are ill-suited as methods and they cannot be used as constructors. Now also while using arrow functions, using const is a safer option because a function expression is always a constant value. So this is the syntax. Now you can only omit the return keyword within the curly braces if the function is a single statement. So this is the syntax. First you provide the name of the function with an equal to sign followed by the argument list. And later you make use of this arrow icon and define the expression. So this is basically nothing but this. So let's go back to our VS Code and check for ourselves. So let's create another function. And here let me say const myfunc equals. Now say we want to display the product of 3 digits. So let me just pass A, B, C as my parameters. and we make use of this icon, which indicates that this is an arrow function, within which I say return A into B into C. Alright, now let me just assign this to a variable. Okay, let me say product, because we've used X here. And then let me call my function, that is my func, and pass the value 2, 3, and say 4. Alright, so let's display the product. So let me just copy this code. And here let me say the product of the 3 digits is. And let me say product here, because that is what is being used here, right? Alright, so let me save this and execute it. Alright, first it displays the area of the circle. Alright, and then we say OK. And there we go. It displays the message, the product of the 3 digits is 24. So let me do one thing. Let me just comment this out. Okay. Let me save it and then execute it again. It just displays this. Alright, so this is how we can make use of arrow functions. Moving on, let's look at the generator function. Now, regular functions typically return only one value, right? Or a single value, or sometimes even nothing. But a generator function can return multiple values. And the speciality is that it can do it so on demand. Alright, now to create a generator function, we make use of an asterisk. So an asterisk indicates that the function is a generator function. So here you can see that we have a function followed by asterisk, and we've created a function called generator sequence. So here you can see we have the asterisk after the keyword function followed by the name of the function, right? But the main method of a generator function is the next method. When this method is called, it basically runs the execution until the nearest yield value, alright, or the nearest yield statement. Then the function execution pauses and the yielded value is returned to the outer code. Alright, so the result of the next method is always an object with two properties. It has the value property, which is basically the yielded value, and then it has the done property, which displays true if the function code is finished or false if it's otherwise. So let me show its execution for a clearer understanding. So let's go back to our VS Code, and here let's create the generator function. Let's say function asterisk generate function, alright. Now within which I make use of the keyword yield, and I say yield 1 first, followed by yield 2, and then finally I make use of return, which indicates the termination, so I say return 3. Alright, now we make use of a variable, say generator, and assign it to the generator function, that is generate func. And now I create another variable, say 1, which will basically return the value when I call the next function. So here I say generator dot next. Okay, so whatever generator dot next returns, it's stored in 1. So to display the message, I say alert. And now I'm going to make use of a method called JSON.stringify. Alright, so basically this method converts a JavaScript object or a value to a JSON string. Alright, so within which I'm going to say 1. That is this. Alright, so now let me save this and execute it. Let me refresh the page. And there you go. Here it returns two properties, that is value and done. It says value is 1 and done is false, right? It is false because we haven't reached the return statement yet. So what we can do is to display the rest, let me just copy these and display it one by one. See that, let's do this. And here, let me say 2, and this is 3. Let me copy this. Okay, here I say 2, and then I say 3. Alright, so let me save this and then execute it. So when I refresh the page, it says 1 and false. After which again it says 2 and false. And finally, when it displays 3, it returns true for the done property. That means we've reached the end of the function definition. So this is how you make use of a generator function. Now let's move on to our last topic, that is predefined functions. Now JavaScript has many built-in functions, alright? Now here are a few of them. We have eval, parseInt, parseFloat, escape and unescape. Now let's go through one by one. Alright, first up is eval. Now this basically evaluates a string and returns a value. Alright, so to help you understand this better, let me go back to our VS Code. And now let me just create another file and let me call it predefined functions.html. Alright. And I've just copied the initial code. Alright, so for eval, the syntax is eval, within which I say expression. Alright, now this is the general syntax. So what this eval does is that it evaluates the expression. And if the result is not a string, the result is just returned. And if the result is a string, it is taken to be a JavaScript program and evaluated. So let me show you how it's done. So first, let's create 3 variables. Alright, let's call them x and initialize it to 5. Then y with 6. And then let z be 7. Alright. Now let's just display the result on the console. So let's say console.log eval of, let me say, x plus y. Alright. After which I again say console.log of eval of z. Here, since the expression is a string, this gets evaluated. And here, since it's not a string, it just returns the value z. And here, since it is not a string, it just returns the value of z. So let me save this and then execute it. Alright, so let me just check our console. There you go. It evaluated the expression and added the 2 values, that is x and y, and returned 11, while z is returned as it is. Alright, this is what eval does. Next up is parseInt. Now, as the name suggests, it parses a string argument and returns an integer of the specified radix or base. And the syntax basically includes the keyword parse and the string within parentheses. ParseFloat, on the other hand, parses a string argument and returns a floating point number. Again, the syntax has the keyword parseFloat along with the string within parentheses. Next up is escape. Now this returns the hexadecimal encoding of an argument. And on the other hand, unescape returns the ASCII string for the specified value. So with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any doubts or queries, let us know in the comment section below. So I'll see you guys in the next session. Until then, keep learning and stay tuned to Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.